The image that the baseball world woke up to this morning is one that nobody who witnessed it will ever be able to fully process in a single sitting. Shohei Ohtani hit his 22nd home run of the season. The ball left his bat with that familiar authority that has defined his hitting all year long. The crowd rose. The celebration began. And then immediately after rounding the bases and crossing home plate, Ohtani got into an ambulance. His knee still bandaged. His wife Mamiko beside him. And the entire stadium that had been celebrating 30 seconds earlier fell into a silence so complete and so sudden that it felt like a different event entirely from the one that had just produced that home run. Manager Dave Roberts then stepped forward and revealed the information that every person connected to this organization and every fan watching across the country had been dreading in the back of their minds since the first reports of Ohtani's knee situation began to circulate. Shohei will receive an injection and undergo minor surgery. And then the detail that changes everything about how this entire situation needs to be understood. Ohtani was playing baseball through all of it. Through the bandaged knee. Through the MRI that confirmed serious concerns. Through the unprecedented issue that forced his all-star withdrawal. Through every at-bat and every competitive moment that the baseball world has watched with admiration and with growing concern. He was competing through a level of physical difficulty that the people watching in the stands and at home had no complete picture of until this ambulance ride made it impossible to look away from the truth any longer. What was your immediate reaction when you saw Ohtani get into that ambulance immediately after hitting his 22nd home run with his knee still bandaged, and his wife accompanying him? There are moments in sports that transcend the normal emotional register of competition and land in a place that feels genuinely human and genuinely urgent. This is one of those moments. The home run is one thing. The ambulance is another. Watching those two events happen in immediate sequence, the triumph of a 22nd home run followed within moments by the sight of the sport's greatest player being placed in an ambulance with his wife beside him, creates a jarring emotional juxtaposition that nobody in that stadium, or watching on television, was prepared to navigate. Because we have been watching Ohtani compete all season with the understanding that something was not right with his knee. But the ambulance makes it real in a way that box scores and medical statements, and carefully managed organizational communications never quite do. You cannot watch a player get into an ambulance and continue telling yourself that everything is being managed appropriately. Let's talk about what Roberts' specific words reveal about the nature of Ohtani's knee situation and what the combination of an injection and minor surgery actually tells us about how serious the underlying condition is and has been throughout this season. The injection component tells you that there is ongoing inflammation or fluid accumulation or some other condition in that knee that requires direct medical intervention through the joint itself. Injections of this nature in a professional athlete's knee during an active season are not routine maintenance. They are responses to a condition that has become symptomatic enough that the medical staff has determined that conservative management through rest and treatment alone is no longer sufficient to allow the player to function at the level his competition demands. The minor surgery component adds another layer of significance. The word minor in that phrase is doing organizational work. It is meant to convey that the procedure is not the kind of extensive surgical intervention that historically has meant extended absences from competition. But any surgery on a professional athlete's knee during an active season is a significant medical event regardless of how it is characterized in the organizational communications surrounding it. From a medical perspective, what does it mean for a player to have been competing through a knee condition serious enough to require both an injection and minor surgery? And what does that tell us about the level of physical resilience and physical sacrifice that Ohtani has been demonstrating every time he has taken the field this season? This is the question that every person who has been watching Ohtani compete this year needs to sit with for a moment. Because the revelation that he has been playing through a knee condition of this severity reframes everything we have watched him do on the baseball field in recent weeks. Every swing he has taken. Every base he has run. Every defensive play he has made. Every pitch count he has accumulated on the mound. All of it has been produced by a man whose knee required an injection and minor surgery. That level of competitive commitment to his team and to the pursuit of what this season demands is something that the baseball world needs to acknowledge with the full appreciation it deserves. The presence of Mamiko in that ambulance is the detail that makes this story simultaneously the most human and the most moving it has been at any point this season. Ohtani is an extraordinarily private person. His personal life, his relationship with his wife, the intimate details of his experience as a human being rather than as a baseball player. All of it has been kept carefully separate from the public narrative that surrounds his athletic career. For Mamiko to be beside him in that ambulance, visible to the cameras, present in this moment when the medical reality of what Ohtani has been dealing with became impossible to conceal any longer, is a reminder that beneath the historic performances and the record numbers and the unprecedented dual role there is a human being. A person with a wife who loves him and who is sitting beside him when the thing that has been building beneath the surface of this remarkable season finally demands the medical intervention it has been demanding for some time. Robert's revelation that Ohtani was playing through all of this is the element of today's story that will define how this chapter of his career is remembered. Because the baseball world has been watching Ohtani compete this season with a kind of admiring awe that goes beyond appreciation for his statistical contributions. People have sensed that something was not right, and they have watched him compete anyway, and they have understood at some level that they were witnessing something extraordinary in terms of competitive will and competitive commitment. Robert's confirmation that Ohtani was indeed competing through a knee condition serious enough to require the intervention it is now receiving puts a specific and undeniable shape to what that extraordinary thing actually was. He was playing baseball through pain. Through a medical situation that would have ended most players' competitive participation weeks ago. Because he believed this team needed him and because he refused to give less than everything he had to give regardless of what it cost him personally. What does this entire situation tell us about the organizational communication decisions that were made around Ohtani's knee situation and about the balance between competitive necessity and the transparency that fans and media have a legitimate interest in when it comes to the health of the sport's most important player? This is the conversation that the baseball world is now forced to have in the aftermath of today's ambulance scene. Because the revelation that Ohtani was competing through a condition serious enough to ultimately require an injection and minor surgery raises legitimate questions about how much of this was communicated to the people who follow this sport, and at what point the decisions about what to share and what to manage quietly crossed from responsible organizational handling of sensitive medical information into something that the baseball community deserved to know sooner than they did. Ohtani hit his 22nd home run. He got into an ambulance. Mamiko sat beside him. Roberts revealed the injection and the minor surgery. And the baseball world finally has a complete and honest picture of what Shohei Ohtani has been competing through the season. The 22nd home run will be in the record books. The ambulance ride will be in the memory of everyone who watched it. And the knowledge that he was playing baseball through all of it will be part of how this season is understood and remembered long after the final out of this year has been recorded. Whatever comes next for Ohtani, whatever the recovery looks like, whatever his return to the field produces, the story of what he was willing to endure in the service of this team and this season is already one of the most remarkable individual stories that professional baseball has ever produced.